Every week on my website, I feature a different meal prep recipe that you can prep, cook, and plate in under an hour. This week's featured recipe is this ground pork pancit, which I was able to finish in 45 minutes. Pancit is a Filipino dish that works amazingly well for meal prep and has a high volume to calorie ratio, which is always welcome for me. Here's how you make it. Wash and cut all of your vegetables first before you start any of the cooking process. You want to be ready for these when it's their turn to be added to the pan and not have to run around the kitchen making different cuts. Start with a half a pound or 227 grams of celery and cut it into a small dice. Next, take one medium sweet onion or about 200 grams and cut it into thin slices. I like to finish the dish with some green onions as a garnish. Cut the tops into a small dice. You can also add the OYSTER onion pile as well if you wish. For your carrots, you need a half a pound or 227 grams. I use a vegetable peeler and go down the length of the carrot to create thin ribbons. You can just buy the prepackaged matchstick carrots and skip this step entirely if you want to save time. For your rice sticks, you need 8 ounces or 227 grams of these thin rice sticks. Place them into a bowl of hot water and set that aside while you cook the rest of your ingredients. Now you're ready to start the stir frying process. In a large skillet or wok over medium-high heat, add 2 pounds of ground pork. I'm using 80-20 pork in this recipe, but any leanness of any kind of ground meat will work. If you wanted to use turkey or beef, your final product will turn out to be nearly identical. Season that pork lightly with salt and pepper and allow it to brown. The reason I chose 80-20 pork for this recipe is so that I can use the fat that gets rendered off to cook the vegetables in. If you decide to go with a leaner option, say 93.7 ground turkey, you will likely need to add a bit of oil to assist with the stir frying process. Once the pork has browned, remove it and place it into a large bowl. Try and keep as much of the fat remaining in the pan as possible. If you have anything more than 2 tablespoons remaining, you can just get rid of the excess. I ended up having a bit extra, so I could have gotten by with using an 85-15 mix, but unfortunately, my grocery store only had 80-20. Add your onions and celery to the pan and allow them to develop some color and become fragrant. Cooking vegetables, specifically onions, in animal fat will make your house smell amazing. It just hits a bit different than cooking them in oil does. Next, you're going to add your shredded carrots. Seasoning very lightly with salt along the way will help to pull some of the water out of these vegetables and encourage them to cook down a bit faster. Then you're going to add 1 tablespoon or 15 grams of minced ginger and mix. I use the stuff from the bottle just to make things easier. After about a minute of cooking, you can then add in your shredded cabbage. Take 8 ounces or 227 grams of shredded cabbage and pour that into the pan, allowing it to cook down. A coleslaw mix will work just as well if your store doesn't have plain shredded cabbage, or alternatively, you can just finely shred a head of cabbage. Season again lightly with salt and toss everything around to mix. We're going to cook this mixture for a few minutes until the cabbage has softened, and then you can add in 1 tablespoon or 15 grams of minced garlic. I like to add the garlic towards the end of the stir frying process so that it doesn't burn. Because we are using higher heats and garlic is prone to burning, you have to take some extra precautions with it. After everything has had time to cook and those vegetables are softened, you can pull them out of the pan and add to the bowl with your pork. Next, we need to put together the sauce. In a small bowl, mix together 3 tablespoons or 45 grams of freshly squeezed lime juice, 1/4 of a cup or 60 grams of chicken stock, 2 1/3 tablespoons or 35 grams of soy sauce, and then 2 tablespoons or 30 grams of oyster sauce. Mix that together until it is fully combined. This recipe can be easily made to be gluten-friendly by choosing a soy sauce and an oyster sauce that are both gluten-free. From here, all that's left to do is mix everything together and plate it up. Dump your rice sticks into the bowl with your pork and vegetables, then pour the sauce over the top. One thing I would recommend doing is passing a knife through the rice sticks a few times to break them up into smaller pieces and make them easier to eat. While you are mixing, you should taste as you go and adjust any flavors as you see fit. Season with salt and pepper to taste, and adjust the amount of lime juice or soy sauce if you feel it is necessary. After everything is fully combined and you have the flavor where you like it, divide the mixture evenly into 6 containers. Because there are so many vegetables in this meal and that the rice sticks take up a lot of space, these portions will be fairly large from a volume standpoint. You can always add another container and divide into 7 if you need to make a more comfortable meal size for you. Each of these dishes will get topped with green onions, a couple of slices of thinly chopped jalapeños, and a lime wedge on the side. All of these are optional, but they make the meals look nice, and that really does matter with meal prep. When you eat the same meal every day, it helps when you have something that is aesthetically pleasing because you'll be much more excited to eat that than a bland, boring meal. Once all the meals have had time to cool, you can toss on the lids, stack them up, and move them into your fridge for storage. To reheat, I use the microwave for a couple of minutes until the food is hot. I have noticed in the past that some brands of the rice sticks tend to dry out in the fridge over the course of the week, whereas other brands don't. So if you get unlucky and you do have one of these brands that dry out, pouring a splash of chicken stock over the top of the meal before you reheat it can help to solve this problem. Each dish has about 557 calories and 29 grams of protein. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, this recipe is a feature of the quick and easy meal prep recipe of the week that I do on my website each week. If you're in need of other quick meal prep recipes to prepare you for your weeks, go to my website and give it a look. The full written recipe for this ground pork pancit will be included in the description of this video. See you next week.